Hi, everybody. My name is Thad Hughes, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today to a presentation from the Camphill community on a holistic approach to autism. My connection with the Camphill community is through my parents. They've recently moved to a Camphill community for retirement in New York, so they put me in touch with some people. They were very enthusiastic about Tech Talks at Google and thought this would be a great venue for Camphill to present some of their perspective on holistic approach to autism. So here we are. I'd like to introduce Coleman Lyles. He's the director of Camphill, California, and he's been working with the Camphill communities for 37 years. Started off on the East Coast for 23 years, and then he's been in California for 14. So without further ado, here he is.
Thank you, Thad. It's a pleasure to be here and speak to the people of Google about this subject. And my task is to provide a very brief and quick overview of what Camphill is. Camphill is a worldwide movement, intentional community movement that provides community-based programs for and with individuals who are developmentally disabled. This movement began in 1939 when a group of refugees from Vienna, Austria, needed to get out because of the rise of Nazism. This group made a decision that they would try to find their way to a safe country and form a community together. The leader of this group was a man named Dr. Karl Koenig. He was a pediatrician, and he had a specialty in working with children who were developmentally disabled at a time when you could probably fill one bookshelf on all the literature that was available on that subject. So because of his expertise, they found their way to Aberdeen, Scotland, and they decided to form a school, start a school for children with special needs, and they were given an estate to do that work on, and the name of the estate was Camphill Estate, hence the name Camphill. Now, this group of individuals, they were very different and unique from each other, primarily artists and medical students. They were singularly ill-equipped to run a school for children. I've met some of these original founders, and they have told me that they had no idea what they were getting into, but nevertheless, they did it. Now, there was one thing that they did have in common, though, and that was that they were all interested in the anthroposophical work of Rudolf Steiner, the 19th century natural scientist and philosopher. Rudolf Steiner's work is the basis, for example, Waldorf education, biodynamic agriculture, and many other practical applications of anthroposophy. The Camphillers, the early Camphillers, were really interested in a wide range of these practical applications of anthroposophy. They were interested in the therapeutic and medical applications, obviously because of the nature of their work. They were interested in the community and social applications of anthroposophical work. They were also interested in art and spiritual renewal, religious renewal, and also agriculture, biodynamic agriculture. So the communities that they formed really attempted to embrace all these different dimensions. Now scroll forward, 67 years later. There are over 100 Camphill communities worldwide. There are 11 in North America, and there's one right here in California in Santa Cruz. And these communities are fairly well known in the service provider industry. And the one thing that is really, a lot of things have really changed in all these years, and the landscape of social services particularly has changed. It has gone from an institutional model to a community-based model. So you might say that the service provider industry is caught up with Camphill, where they're interested in providing community-based models for people in need of special care. And the one thing that is very important in a community-based model is that you have what they call natural circles of support. And to understand what that is, just look at your own life. You have circles of support around you. There's a small circle of support, your immediate family that's around you. Another circle might be your friends. A third circle might be your coworkers. A fourth circle might be people that you have something in common with, your golf buddies or your tennis buddies, or you are a chess player, or you're a music enthusiast. So that's another circle of support, and so it goes, many different circles of support. The last circle of support you have is usually a circle of people that you pay them to support you. Your accountant, your lawyer, your doctor, your dentist, right? Now, the interesting thing for people who have developmental disabilities is that that first circle of support is usually intact pretty strongly, and that last circle is a very large circle. A lot of people are involved because they're being paid to be involved. And all those in-between circles, and those are the natural circles of support, they're very weak usually in the biography of these individuals. So one of the main things that any good service provider is interested in trying to do is to develop natural circles of support. And I think that this is what Camphill has managed to do in an outstanding fashion. And we're going to hear more about that today at hand of very specific individuals who have lived and worked in Camphill together over many, many years. Now, I would like to segue for a moment. I mentioned there are 11 Camphill places in North America. There are also 2 support organizations, the Camphill Association of North America and the Camphill Foundation. We're very fortunate to have Shelley Burt here, the executive director of the Camphill Foundation. She will say a word about this North American scene, and then we will proceed with our program. Shelley.
Thank you. As executive director of the Camphill Foundation, the mission of the foundation is to grow and sustain Camphill communities in North America and around the world. We partner in that task with the Camphill Association, which is the membership association for Camphill communities. But the critical task of, in order to grow and sustain Camphill communities, is to get the word out, to let more people know about this effective, innovative, and proven, both at the same time, model of care for people with developmental disabilities. So what I want to do just quickly is pass the baton on to people who can speak from a very personal perspective about the life-changing care that the life-sharing communities of Camphill can provide. So let me welcome Laura and Matthew Schumaker. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Laura, and I think Matthew's going to talk in a moment with David, who is his caregiver. Unless you'd like to come up with me, Matthew, would you like that? Oh, not yet? Have a seat. Okay, come on up. I'll kind of go through my presentation. I've never presented with Matthew present, which is so it's a real honor. So I just want to tell you a little about myself. I grew up in Northern California. I was the middle of 3 kids. I had great parents, happy childhood, happier than most. There was never a time that I didn't know that I wanted to be a mother. This is not my baby. This is my brother's baby. But I used to show pictures of my baby niece to all my prospective boyfriends, which my mother tells me scared them away. Luckily, they didn't scare my husband away, and I was really careful when we met not to mention how much I wanted to be a mother until our second date. So when we did get married, we decided that we would wait about 2 years to have our first child, but Matthew beat us by 2 months. And it was the happiest day of my life when I became his mother, and I continue to be proud of him every day. In a few years, there was another child, Matthew's brother, Andy. So, we thought that's great, but it's time to try for a girl. You can see how that worked out. However, I really thoroughly enjoy being the mother of 3 boys. And wouldn't you know that one of Matthew's babysitters would end up at Google. This is Rocky Garf with my 3 sons. Rocky's in the front row here. Anyway, so Rocky. That was, I think, his senior prom picture. or maybe it was junior. Anyway, so each of my boys, they had a lot of similarities, but they also had a lot of differences. This is my youngest child, John. Now, John is very friendly and he's very kind. He's really good at skateboarding and he loves music, but he does not like to read much and he's not very good at doing his homework.
I like music too.
You like music too. You and John share that. Andy's my second child. He does like homework. He loves to read. He's also very funny. And like John and Matthew, he loves music. But he cannot mow a lawn. He's not good at gardening. And his room is always a mess. You know what I mean?
John?
This is Andy.
Yeah.
Now Matthew loves music, just like his brothers. He's always been really good at music. He's really smart. He's really a hard worker. He loves landscape work, and from a very young age, he's been an expert in poisonous plants. But the thing that was really hard for Matthew is, since he has autism, sometimes school and friends were just really challenging. People didn't really understand how Matthew related to the world, and teachers didn't really understand how to teach him the most effective way. So people with autism, they're all very different, but they share 3 deficits in general. One is social interaction. This is something we all take for granted, but doesn't come naturally to people with autism. Verbal and nonverbal communication, meaning that sometimes it's hard to express what you're thinking and feeling, and it's hard for people to understand what you're trying to express. Also, sometimes people with autism have intense interests on like one thing. Matthew, for quite some time, was really interested in airplanes, really interested in airplanes. So much so,
I'm done with that.
You're done with that now, man. You are done. But at the time, you were very young and you were in school, and he loved airplanes so much, he didn't really like to think about school. So it was frustrating. You know what I mean, Matthew? And the thing that was really frustrating, do you remember this woman, Matthew, Vanessa? She was Matthew's teacher's aide, and I know you didn't like her because the thing is, a lot of teachers didn't understand how Matthew learned and communicated. And so they thought they had to do a lot of things for Matthew. But the thing is, Matthew was really capable of doing a lot of things himself. And the teachers didn't seem to understand that. But I knew it because when he came home from school, he used to build the most remarkable roller coasters and buildings. Remember that, Matthew?
I was in the 8th grade.
In the 8th grade? Yeah, you were amazing. And when he was younger, he painted the most incredible watercolors. Just so talented. I was just so incredibly proud of him. But, you know, by the time he got in high school, this picture is the mascot of Akalani's high school. I thought that might give Matthew a chuckle.
There for 2 years.
He was there for 2 years, and it didn't go that well because you know how hard high school is. When you're really trying to relate to other people and have people understand you, it just wasn't happening in high school. And sometimes people with autism, they use their behavior as a way to communicate, and that can be disruptive. And some of that was going on in high school.
I had a few other friends like Kelsey
Oh, yeah.
and Nate and Costa. They stopped going to Outlaw.
Oh, yeah. There were other kids, just like Matthew, who just really
Lauren
struggled.
Leonard and
Yeah.
people like that.
It's a struggle. You know, high school can be really hard.
Kelsey especially left.
Yeah, Kelsey left, yeah.
After 2 years and went to Delaware.
But you know what we decided? We decided it was really important that we could find a school where people not only understood you, but valued you and accepted you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and when so my husband and I searched for a place just like that, and we found Camphill, and we'd heard that Camphill was such a place. This is Camphill Special School in Glenmore, Pennsylvania. So Matthew went there when he was in high school, and at first I think it was really hard for him, but before you know it, I mean, he became a really important part of the community. And one thing that I loved about when we first visited Camphill is it was clear to me that the people who worked there could see right away what a valuable person Matthew was and that he was capable of doing so many things. And
Yeah.
that's where I wanted Matthew to be. So he learned to love the weather back on the East Coast too. You know, yeah, he really loved the snow, and the thing that was most remarkable to me was after about a year there, I guess it was his second year, his teacher called me up, and also his house father David, and said, you know what, Matthew is our star student, and we want him to be the lead in the fall play. Or excuse me, the spring play. It's Faust. And I'm thinking, okay, Faust, that's really hard stuff. That's a big, thick, heavy play. I'm sure that it'll be a shortened play. But nope, Matthew came home at spring break with the, there's Guy and there's Faust. Matthew came home at spring break, and we practiced his lines, what was it, like 3 times a day? Mm-hmm. 3 times a day, Matthew memorized every single line in that play, not only his, but that of the rest of the cast. So I was incredibly proud of him. I was so proud of him. So now Matthew's at Camphill Communities, California. And
Wait, what about Salting?
well, yeah, you went to, between Camphill Special School, he then went to Camphill Soltane, which is sort of like the college program for people with disabilities. Matthew really enjoyed that as well.
But why did you type it?
Why didn't I type it? I don't know. Next time I'll type it. Sometimes I don't get it all right. Thank you for pointing that out. But I wanted to tell them about Camphill Communities, California, and how I'm so happy that Matthew is there, because while I love Pennsylvania, it was really hard for me to have Matthew so far away. And now he's just about an hour away. And he is one of the first people in supported employment at Camphill Communities, California. And he does landscape work. He just recently got his first paycheck. So there you go.
Yeah.
So with this, I'm going to hand it off to David, who's going to talk a little bit about Matthew and his role in the community, and say how grateful I am that Matthew is my son. I couldn't be prouder, truly. So this is a book I wrote about him, and of course, there's my contact information if you want to reach out to me. Thank you very much, and thank you, Matthew.
Me too.
So Matt and I, we live in Camphill Communities together now. We live and work, and we've known each other for 12 years. And that's another quality about Camphill, is that there are sustained, long relationships in Camphill. 12, 10, 20 years, people know each other and are together. It's really an amazing thing. So it's very important for Matt. The focus of this presentation was supposed to be about Camphill and what it has to offer people with autism spectrum disorder, neurological irregularities, more specifically. But Matt and I, we're in our relationship, we're beyond that label. I never call Matt autistic. I never say this is my autistic friend or anything like that. We're just two people who really have become close friends after 12 years. And the label is just not there. The two individuals are there, but not the label.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you're Matt Schumaker to me.
I know, but by the label.
Well, the label, that whole labeling thing, that's something that Camphill really doesn't indulge in. We really try to move away from that and really create individual relations with each other and individual understandings. And this is also part of the cutting edge work with people on the spectrum, because the people who are really cutting edge and are really at the forefront, especially the holistic people, they are beginning to understand that every neurological irregularity is completely individual. There really is no category, no label, no box to put somebody in. And so Matt has really made it very clear to me, that he wants to have, he's wanted to have a relationship. And I've known Matt basically since he was 14. Camphill Special School, and I was a teacher there. By the way, I design horticultural programs. Now, I'm a little bit of an odd bird. I'm not an expert from the academic point of view. I'm not an expert from a medical point of view. As a matter of fact, my degree is JD. So I'm pretty far away from this whole thing. No, being a lawyer. And but I've been in and out of Camphill for over a 40-year period, and I'm very, very interested in what therapeutic community life offers, and it offers a lot of people with who have neurological irregularities. It offers a lot of things. For one thing, it's structured. There's a lot of regularity because we eat meals at the same time. We get up at the same time. We work all together during the day. We celebrate the day, the week, the year. We have festivals. All of these things are happening in a rhythmic way so that sleep, for example, the sleeping rhythm is really established by the rhythm of the community. And we're eating regular meals, and most all the Camphill places are very devoted to organic husbanding of the earth, the biodynamic method, and so we're eating all this nutritious food all the time, which is another extremely important part of working with people with neurological irregularities. There's often nutritional issues around digestion and so forth, and good food, really nutritious food, is really important. Another thing is that with neurological irregularities where you have a fractured or unintegrated sensory experience, that, you know, from a holistic point of view, it has a multifactorial basis. There's not one explanation for it. But there's a lot of anxiety and fear that can come when you're in that situation. And you really need to be in a place where you feel safe and secure. And this structured, regular life where, you know, we don't have staff coming in on schedules. Everybody lives there. We're all there 24/7. We're in surrogate family settings and homes. We all are becoming each other's friends and getting to know each other. And this human encounter business, where it's not based on a label and on clinical, this is really important to break through to the individuality of each other, is very necessary. And another thing about community life that is also really a cool thing is that we work. It's a working community. So we have craft workshops. We have the full range of agricultural work, gardening, farming, herb work, fruit work, grapes, you name it. We do it all at Camphill Communities. Now, all of this movement is very important, because the whole Camphill thing is, we are, out of anthroposophy, we are hardcore neuroplastic people. We really believe that the nervous system can repair and reharmonize itself. There's no such thing as permanent damage, irreparability, hardwire. We don't buy into any of that. And this whole movement thing, to harmonize the nervous system, you have to be moving. And Matt is such an incredible gardener. You should see him lawn mowing, weed whacking, leaf blowing, weeding, digging, planting, watering. Think of all these movements. Vestibularly, it is so stimulating, and weaving, all the people who are weaving, and pottery, and all these different things. Plus we have, you know, like an outstanding artistic life. So people are acting, dancing, and then we have more structured movement activities too. So this whole holistic thing is really cool. Now, just a second, Matt. I want to get a book. I brought some books with me too that I wanted to turn you on to. One is Cutting Edge in Autism. Camphill is in there. The whole chapter on Camphill. And this is a very informative book because you can also see all the other holistic activities that are going on, some of which Camphill is partnered with. The other thing I really wanted to turn you on is this book, The Brain That Changes Itself by Norman Deutsch. This is a bestseller, and it outlines for you all the research that's going on with neuroplastic theory. And all of us who are in the holistic realm with the autism issue, this is what we're about. We're about neuroplastic theory. So I highly recommend that. And then another book I want to recommend is Fabric of Autism by Judith Bluestone. These people have the most advanced training programs for people who are working with people with neurological irregularities that I know. And Judith Bluestone herself is a person who's labeled ASD, and her research is incredible, and this is a life-changing book to read. And finally, just so that you think Camphill, we're not completely hidden from the world, we have our book too, Autism, A Holistic Approach. And this it's mostly about kids, but it's really an informative and cool book. Now I wanted to give Matt a chance to talk, and then I'm going to close by reading something from Judith Bluestone. But I wanted you to share people something about, you need to talk into that, about your work experience. What is it like to live in Camphill communities?
Well, living in Camphill communities is okay for me, but what I've been doing lately so far is I've been doing some weed whacking along the edges, and I have been experienced on using leaf blowers, mowing lawns, cutting hedges, and I've also, once a long time ago when I was back east, I used a snow blower. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question, Matt?
Sure.
Do you feel that when you want to try to do something new, when you have ideas about what you want to do you feel that you can come and talk to me about that and we try to do something about it?
I guess I could.
Yeah. Have you?
I haven't yet.
Well, what about paid work?
Yeah.
You came to me. Tell them about that.
Well, yeah, that's right. I got my 217 paid check.
I mean, you came to me and said you wanted to start doing paid work, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So
and it's happening.
I'm working for these people, John Watts, but I'm taking a break from him. So I'm working for Evergreen, working on pick work and weed whacking, and doing some blowing. Not much mowing, not really any mowing because the grounds are rough there, but I'm watering, things like that. And then I'm working at this guy across my house named Rob Kilpack, and I'm mowing his lawn, weed whacking, and doing a tiny bit of blowing at his house.
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
What about working by yourself independently?
Yeah.
Are you doing that?
Yes, I am.
Tell people about it.
I'm working independently.
You know what that means is that he's doing jobs where he's not supervised. He's doing, working 3-4 hours at a time on his own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Let me just ask a quick question.
Go.
When I'm at my parents' house, I do work not unsupervised with power tools sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know what I'm doing. And when I was in Saltane, I did work unsupervised a little too with power tools, but people were around making sure I was doing the right job. Because like here, you don't get very many leaves in the fall, but back east in Pennsylvania, I had a leaf blower in Saltane. There were leaves everywhere. I had to do a bunch of leaf blowing. And even in 2 inches of snow, I used a leaf blower on that. Yeah. So the ground wouldn't get ice.
So this may sound very simple, but Matt and I, we don't live in the same house. But if we, like if we have to talk to each other, we call up on the telephone, we discuss things, we make arrangements for the work for the week. All of this just happens completely naturally because we're partners together, Now, I wanted to close the presentation by reading you something from Judith Bluestone.
What should I do?
You can stand here and listen or sit down.
I'll sit down.
Okay. But Judith died in 2010 when she was 68. And she was a significantly neurologically irregular person. But she had really made an incredible life for herself as a researcher and a teacher. And she developed the whole handle, HANDLE. You can just Google handle. You'll get a lot of information. And this is what she wrote at the end of her book. And this is very much at the heart of Camphill. This is, I would say, what I'm about to read to you is something that Carl Koenig, the founder of Camphill, he lived with this every single day of his life. He knew this about the children and the adults he was working with. And she says here, she says, I now wonder if I was ever autistic. She says, I wonder if I was ever autistic. She said, according to most diagnostic criteria, I was definitely autistic. And then she says that, am I autistic now? She did all kinds of things to help herself all during childhood to adapt and everything. Like she spent hours and hours and weeks and months doing pogo sticking, for example. She did all kinds of things with her diet and all kinds of stuff. And she says, am I autistic now? I don't think so. Even though my preferred modalities are solitude and written expression and uncontrollable silliness and deep input rather than light touch, and my scripts and my photos and my rituals are still essential parts of me, am I autistic now? No, I am not autistic. How do I know for sure? Because the label is not who I am. I am who I've always known I was. I'm just me. And finally, very proud to be that with all the quirks that are part of me. I am just me. And I believe I will live to see the day when, through understanding and early intervention, the world will no longer batter people whose perceptual experiences are fraught with fright, who are filled with anxiety, so that such people can bravely conquer their hidden demons and move forward to true sharing without the need for being taught how to be fluid. And that's really, Camphill is a place where we really, we try to meet people there. I am me. And that's what I want to be.
So I want to thank David and Matthew and Laura and Shelley for speaking here this afternoon. We have still maybe 10 more minutes if people want to ask them questions. I think what has really appeared here is very intriguing. You heard about natural circles of support, which is circles of support that are based on human relationships that have no monetary implication. You heard about the absence of labels. You heard about, from Laura, the possibility to recognize a person's true potential and really work towards that. You heard about this worldwide movement, which is, integrated in a very particular way around very specific principles. I want to mention that, when it comes to Matt, he's a Camphiller. You have to understand, this is a guy who spent his high school years in one Camphill community, went to a college setting for another 3 or 4 years, then has come to Camphill Communities, California. And apart from the fact that Matt is a good worker and he's earning money, it needs to be said that he's also a valued member of the community as such. He's integrated in our community, and as a Camphiller, he also sets an excellent example for younger people who are coming maybe to Camphill for the first time. You know, he has experience, so he's a member of our community, and that also needs to be placed out there. And that also, I think, underscores what we attempt to try to do in Camphill, which is create community together in such a way that we're not making distinctions, you know, between individuals, that we're all there working and living together. So having said that, are there any questions that people might have? I don't pretend to be able to answer them, but I can direct your question to one of the people sitting in the front row who may be able to. Yes. Yes, I mean, basically, Camphill is an international organization, and the Camphill Foundation has a great brochure here that will show you where all the different communities are. So there are, it's, you know, it's international. There are many different communities that are providing services, you know, for you know, different speaking. However, are we bilingual in Camphill Communities, California? No, I'm afraid we're not. It would be great if we were, but we're not. Any other questions? Yes. No. We're relatively small. We started 14 years ago, and we're the total community right now consists of between 35 and 45 people on any given day. We're around 40 people. The largest Camphill community in North America is in upstate New York. That's Camphill Village, USA, and there are about 200 people who are living together there. So Camphill communities, you might almost say, by definition, the magnitude, the scale of them tends to be on the small side. But, you know, hundreds of people can live together effectively. Whether thousands can live together in this community model effectively, that remains to be seen. Yes.
Makeup of the Camphill community, like where do people come from? What brought you to the Camphill community? I'm curious how people go around.
Well, it's once again, if you came to Camphill Communities, California tomorrow, right, you would meet some local people who are part-time and full-time employees that work with us. You would meet a number of committed Camphillers who have been living and working in Camphill for decades, like myself. And we could be people from the United States, Great Britain, Central Europe. Then you would also meet another group of people who would be mainly on the young side, short-term volunteers. Those are individuals volunteering anywhere from 1 to 3 years to live and work in Camphill. And they also come from all over the world. Currently, we have people from China with us, from Germany, the Philippines recently, and also recently a person from Russia. He was our first Russian. And this is what I'm describing now that's specific to our community in Santa Cruz is characteristic of all Camphill communities in the world. If you went anywhere, Great Britain, Scandinavia, Germany, Austria. So that kind of gives you a rough idea, Thad, of
Like maybe you would have some bilinguals. I mean, not that the whole community would be bilingual, but.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We have bilingual people living in.
Yeah. So it's very eclectic, very cosmopolitan, very international. Yeah, that's sort of summarizes it.
Another way to find your way to Camphill, especially for 1 or 2 year volunteer positions, is through AmeriCorps at the moment. And we place over 100 AmeriCorps volunteers in Camphill communities around North America.
Okay, I'm going to ask, if there are no more questions, I'm going to ask Shelley just to say a word at the end here as our sort of North American representative.
Thank you. Thank you. So each Camphill community, I want to stress 2 things that have come up as part of each individual's presentation, but that weren't explicitly shared about what is Camphill and why do I find it so special. And The first is that Camphill communities value the profound significance of every human being. Every human being is valued for who they are. And in Camphill communities, you can find yourself honored for who you are and your full potential. People strive together to reach their full potentials. And the second thing about Camphill communities is that they are life-sharing communities. And what does that mean for those of us who are not involved in life-sharing? And I don't live in a Camphill community, I don't life-share, but the foundation's mission is to help extend this life-sharing model because of the therapeutic care that it can provide. Life-sharing means that you, as David said, are sharing homes 24/7 with individuals in need of special care. You are not punching a time clock. You are not paid a salary for your work. You enter the community to work with the community to strive together to reach everyone's full potential. For that, your needs are met as you give to the community what is needed, and you are supported in the community. That's life sharing, and it makes a tremendous difference for everyone who is there to know that they're being supported in that way. As I said at the beginning, although we can read about the holistic approach to autism that Camphill has helped to pioneer, Camphill, typically I find when speaking about it, people don't know about Camphill. We need more advocates for Camphill. We need more ambassadors for Camphill. It's one reason I was thrilled to come to Google today. I would love to play a role for any or all of you in informing you more about Camphill and sharing what we do more widely. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for your time.